Asante sana word, which just means thank you in Swahili. Another thing we like to say here at Harambe is Twende, which does mean let's go! Jumbo everyone, my name is Emma and I'll be your safari guide today as we make our way through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. A couple reminders before we get started. Make sure we are staying seated at all times and keeping those hands, arms, feet, and legs inside as well. If you look above you, you will see an animal spotting guide. Now it is a little outdated, so we probably won't see all the animals on there, but hopefully we see a good many of them. But we aren't always able to stop for these animals, so if you're wanting to take any pictures, I'd have those cameras out and at the ready in either live mode or sport mode or even video to get those best pictures possible. We are headed right on in here to the first area called the Little Ituri Forest, and I'm already spotting some of our friends here. That bird there is called the saddle-billed stork, and then those animals up on the hill with the horns are called bongo. Now if you also look over on the right-hand side, all the way up by that bamboo there, you will see an okapi. And now that I've named them all, I can actually talk a little bit about them. Now that okapi does have stripes on their legs, which might make you think that they are related to the zebra, but they're actually the closest living relative to the giraffe. They have those same prehensile tongues, which is just a fancy word for finger-like. So they have the same finger-like tongues that they use to strip leaves off of bushes and branches, just like the giraffe. Now that saddle-billed stork you saw does have that yellow saddle shape right on their beak there. And if they were to expand their wings to their full capacity, it actually would be about the same distance as the canopy above you. Now over on your left, you'll also see a black rhino hanging out there in the shade. Now black rhinos also have a curved upper lip, a prehensile upper lip, like the okapi, and it acts almost like their own personal spoon, helping them to spoon their food into their mouths. Now if you're a little hidden in the bushes, you will see a couple of greater kudu. That's going to be the gray animal with those white stripes. Now those white stripes are meant to resemble sun rays through the trees, and it's their form of camouflage here in the Little Ituri Forest, where most animals use camouflage as their main defense mechanism. So they'll have spots or stripes or patterns to help them blend into the natural foliage, like that bongo we also saw at the beginning. I was actually surprised we saw that bongo out here because they are known as the ghost of the forest, and that's because they remain hidden away most of the time. Now we are headed right on into our next area here called the Safi River. Now the Safi River is known for more semi-aquatic animals, or animals that live some of their time on land and a lot of their time in the water. So once we pass these waterways, you'll want to keep an eye out for any bubbles or ripples you might see, because that may very well be an animal. Over there on your right-hand side, you will see those gray and white birds with the big beaks. Those are pink-backed pelicans. Now during mating season, the pink-backed pelicans do get pink coloring, you guessed it, on their backs. But they'll also get it on their necks and cheeks, almost like they're blushing. Now you might be able to see it just come out of the water over here on your left. You will see a Nile hippo hanging out there in the water, doing a little flip for us. Now a lot of times we don't see these Nile hippo out here because they will close off their eyes and ears and nostrils, and they'll sink below the water, and they'll even spend some time sleeping there. Now when they are below the water, they don't swim like a lot of other aquatic animals do. They actually make a motion more like they're running or galloping, and that's how they make their way through the water below. Now back in that corner on your left, you might have been able to spot the very edge of a tail of a Nile crocodile. Now usually they're a little easier to spot because they are in fact the largest crocodile in Africa. They can get up to be almost 16 feet in length. But you will start to see the sun peeking through the trees a little bit better up here as we make our way into a more open area. start to see that funky looking tree up ahead called the baobab tree. Now the baobab tree is also known as the upside down tree, and that's because it does in fact look like roots sticking right up from the ground. Now the baobab tree is found mostly in the savanna, which is this next area we're headed right on into. Now the savanna is known for a lot of migratory animals, or animals that travel in larger groups. So hopefully we see a couple of those groups out here today. I'm already spotting a couple of them. Now right here in front of us you will see a couple of Hartman's mountain zebra. Now these stripes on the zebra's backs are all unique to themselves, almost like a human fingerprint. So when they're born they'll memorize their mom's stripe pattern so they can always find their way back to her. Now we do know those are Hartman's mountain zebra because they do have that flap of skin under their chin called a dewlap, and it helps them regulate their body temperature. And actually several of the animals on the savanna do have that dewlap. Over here on your left hand side, under that smaller, more leafy overhanging tree, you will see a couple of African painted dogs taking a nap in the shade there. They're not moving very much, so it's kind of hard to see them there. Now they are called African painted dogs because those splotches of color on their fur do in fact look like paint splotches. They're quite similar to our domesticated dogs, but whereas they have that upper fifth toe dew claw, these guys only have 4 toes, and I don't think you'd want one of them as a pet. Now over there further in the shade you will see those longhorned animals called the sable antelope. Now they are actually the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, and that's because when it comes down to the choice between fight or flight, they will always choose to fight, just like we choose to fight for our environment. Now those other guys you spotted are some of my favorite here on the reserve. They are the smallest antelope here in the reserve, called the springbok. Now the springbok can in fact spring up into the air up to 13 feet forward, and this action is called pronking. They'll do it when they're either a little startled, but they can also do it when they're pretty excited as well. Now as we first entered the savanna, I'm sure some of you noticed some giraffe hanging out over here, so hopefully we'll get a better spot of them. Now it's no surprise they're out here because these trees covering the area are called acacia trees. They're actually the favorite snack for the giraffe. They'll use those long tongues, just like the okapi do in that first area we saw, to get the leaves off the lower branches, which is why most of these trees actually don't have leaves on their lower branches. The giraffes have already eaten them all. Giraffes is called a tower. So over here you are seeing a tower giraffe. I do remember it because they tower quite high above us. But there's one giraffe right here who doesn't tower quite as high above us, and that is going to be that baby giraffe. Now don't be shocked though, because she is in fact 7 feet tall. Giraffe can be born up to 6 feet tall. For reference, they can get around 18 to 20 feet in height. Now up here on that hill you'll also see those grayish animals with the long hair and horns. Now those are called wildebeest. It's actually surprising we're not seeing more of those wildebeest out here. And that's because they are the second most densely populated mammal, second only to us humans. So oftentimes you'll see them in herds of up to 1.5 billion. You can see that giraffe snacking away there. Now giraffes are in fact ruminants, almost like cows. They do have multiple compartments to their stomachs. So sometimes you'll see a fun thing where they'll eat food. It'll go all the way down their long necks and all the way back up and all the way back down as they process it through those different compartments. Over on your right, you will have spotted an African elephant, a little hidden behind those bushes there. Now we can assume that is a male elephant because he's all on his lonesome. Oh, and there's another one over there. Now, when male elephants do gather together, they're called bachelor herds, but usually male elephants, when they get older, will go off on their own and they'll stay by themselves until they find their own family. See him using his trunk there to pick up some branches. Now that trunk itself does have thousands of muscles in it, which is more than the entire human body, just their trunks. Now he was also flapping his ears there. That's his form of keeping cool. They use it like a natural fan, helping them to blow air at themselves. We're gonna head a little deeper into the savannah here to see what else we can find. Hopefully some more elephants. Here on your right hand side, you will start to see some tusk marks there in the red clay. Now those tusk marks are in fact made by those African elephants. They'll scrape their tusks in the red clay, and in fact they will eat it for the many vitamins it contains. There's some of those elephants over here on your left. Now in Africa they did discover there was a little bit of a dispute between farmers and elephants. And this was because unfortunately the natural habitats of elephants was being destroyed. So instead of staying in their natural areas, they would trample through farmers' crops and destroy them. In the effort to keep both the elephants safe and the farmers' crops safe, they had to find a solution. And they found this solution in one of the most unlikely of places, at Disney World. Now at Disney World they found that while elephants are quite large animals, they're actually very afraid of the tiny little bumblebee. So they created these things called bee boxes, which they hung on fences around farmers' crops. So the elephants would approach, be scared away by the bees, and those farmers' crops would stay safe. But so would the elephants. Just a great example of how humans and animals can work together. Now while the elephants are quite fun, there's another fun animal up here called the flamingo. Now over on your left you will see a flamboyance of those greater flamingo you'll see. Now they are of course that fun pink color. They do get that from the shrimp that they eat that has beta carotene in it. They usually won't get it until they're around 2 years old. So they'll be born with more of a grayish color and they'll get that pink a little bit later. So if you ever see a gray flamingo, it's actually just a little baby. Now right here in the center of this area, you will see what's called a mud wallow. Now it is the favorite hangout spot for the white rhino, so hopefully we can see a couple of them out here today. Now the rhino will roll around there in the mud and coat themselves in an orange liquid that acts as their own natural sunscreen. You can also see on the trunks of some of these trees at about rhino height is where they'll rub around that mud to create a finer layer. rhinos, we're also passing right through cheetah territory. And if you keep your eye out up there on that tree right by the fence line there, you'll see one of those very cheetah. Now, cheetahs are, of course, the fastest land animal. They can move up to 65 miles an hour, and they do this by using their semi-retractable claws, and then also turn their tail into a C shape that acts kind of like a rudder on a ship, helping them to turn and direct themselves as they run. Now, up here in front of us, you'll also see this collection of rocks. That is called a kopie. Now, the kopie is the highest point in the savannah, and it's where a lot of predators will gather to take a look at their below surroundings, because it does, in fact, provide the best vantage point. Those very predators is going to be the lion, which you'll see hanging out under that tree right there, up there on those rocks. Now, that is going to be a female lion. We know this because she doesn't have a mane around her head there. Now, sometimes we won't see these lions because they'll be taking big old cat naps. That's because they actually do spend a majority of their day sleeping. Oh, there's actually 3 of them up there. It's going to be another male lion and another female. They can spend up to 20 hours a day sleeping, which is probably why you see them taking a nap right now. Over here on your left-hand side, in the far distance, you'll see 3 warthogs hanging out there in the dirt. Now, warthogs are, in fact, the largest burrowing animal in Africa. They'll use their 2 sets of tusks to build their burrows, and they'll retreat backwards into them if they sense any danger or to even get some shade. Now, there's one of those white rhino I was mentioning before. There's actually 2 of them up there, all the way up on your right-hand side. And if you also look over here, you will see an ostrich as well. Now, ostrich are, of course, the largest flightless bird, so while they do have those feathers, they cannot fly. But thankfully, they can run quite fast. They can run up to 40 miles an hour. Now, on your right, you'll also see some ostrich eggs coming up here. Ostrich eggs can weigh up to 3 pounds, which is almost the equivalent of 2 dozen regular chicken eggs. And if you were to stand on top of one of them, it actually wouldn't crack. It can sustain the weight of an entire human being. Just pass here into the Magadi Glen, which is home to our warden's post, and it looks like a couple Nigerian dwarf goats have made their home here at our warden's post. Now, while they are quite small, they're actually fully grown. They don't get much larger than that. You also see that triangular box hanging there in the center. That's actually one of those bee boxes I was mentioning earlier. Now, one of their favorite hangout spots is, in fact, on top of that truck, but they'll also hang out on the roof of the warden's post, and that's because they are known for their incredible agility and balance, so it takes absolutely no effort for those guys to hang up there on those rickety spaces. But that was, unfortunately, our last stop of our safari today. But if you fell in love with any of the animals you saw out there, or if you're curious about any of the ones we might not have seen that are up there on that animal spotting guide above you, I encourage you to go home and research them, because the more we learn about these animals, the more we care about them. And the more we care about them, the more likely we are to want to help them. So even if it's something as simple as picking up after yourselves once you leave the beach, you're keeping those waterways clear for some of those semi-aquatic animals we saw earlier, like the hippo. If you're wanting to learn about some more animals while you're already here in the animal kingdom, of course there are many opportunities, but I do encourage you to check out the 2 walking trails. There's going to be one here in Africa called the Gorilla Falls Trail, where you'll see, of course, gorillas, but you'll also see some more hippos in a different pool than the one we saw earlier, and some other fun animals like naked mole rats and meerkats. And if you head up to Asia, you can also check out the Maharaja Jungle Trail, where you might spot a tiger. Now, if I do have any wilderness explorers on board, you were riding the Simba one, and the Simba one is going to be your code word to pick up that badge. You'll get that badge from any of those folks wearing the green shirts with the orange pouches as you make your way out today.
Departamento de pintura.
But it does look like it is about that time for us to say our goodbyes here. But here at Harambe, we don't like to say goodbye. It's far too sad and far too final. So instead, we say kwaherini, which in Swahili does mean go well. So kwaherini, everyone. Go well, go wild, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Make sure we're staying hydrated out there. It is quite hot. Again, my friends on the right-hand side, watch those hands, arms, feet, and neck. Sisters will be